Hey, good morning, everybody. On the road today, so we're going to do our devotional real quick right here. But our passage is Judges 2:6-23. So we get to the story of Joshua and his death, and it says the people followed Joshua all the days of his life, right? They followed him into the promised land, and they obeyed the ways of Yahweh, and they even obeyed the ways of Yahweh afterwards, for those immediately who took charge after Joshua, and they were blessed, and the Lord protected them and blessed them. However, the people began to forget Yahweh and his ways, and they began to worship the pagan gods, the Baals, the Ashtaroth bulls, all these things that the Canaanites, who had been destroyed for their false worship, for their false practices, for doing all these evil and wicked things, the people of Israel fell into those pagan ways and pagan customs. So our questions today are, why did the next generation turn away from God? Well, it says they simply forgot God. They forgot his ways. And that's why it's so important for us to remember the past, to not forget, for us to train up people to remember God's ways, to remember his word, because it's not like, hey, we're born into it and the Lord's going to just bless us for eternity after that because we were born into this family or this lineage. There's a need to obey his word, to know his word in order to obey his word, in order to receive ultimately the blessings of God the way he intended us to live. Second, what happened to Israel when they began to worship idols? The Lord removed his protective hand from them, and they really got, they reaped what they sowed, or they reaped what they sowed, and that, they started to walk in wickedness. Those things followed them, and the Lord basically says, I can't bless that, or you're going to think that you're just being blessed because of your lineage, right? And this is my summary there. The Lord doesn't exactly say that, but the reason why does God not continue to bless because of sin? Because he can't allow you to think those actions are correct, lest you continue them and say, well, hey, I'm blessed. 3, why did God allow them to be defeated by their enemies? To show them, to draw them back to him, to make them remember and ask the question. And suffering people ask, why? Why, God, right? Why is this happening to me? And it's to draw us back, our attention back. Are we living by his word? Are we living by his law? Or are we just living off a remnant of something that happened to us in the past, a past idea, a family line, an experience we had? Are we truly honoring God and living according to his law and to his word? If not, there's going to be defeat in our life. And the Lord wants to draw us back. And this is what's happening here to the Israelites. 4, why did God raise up judges in Israel, and what did they do? The judges, well, first he raises up judges in Israel to know his law, to enforce his law. And so the judges are people that ruled Israel. So think of it like the Supreme Court being in charge of the country. We have 3 branches that rule, right? In America. In Israel, there'd be 1. The judges ruled according to God's law. So they would know his law, they would enforce his law, they would implement his law, and they would rule the society and disputes according to the law of God. So there would be a blessing, that there would be fairness, that there would be equity in the land. And for a time, it says in the passage here, the judges would come in and turn things around, and the people would start to listen, and then a judge would die, and they'd fall back into their own old ways. And this is really comes back to yesterday, where Joshua told them, you cannot worship God because he's a holy God, right? There's this phrase there where you cannot, and it's kind of weird, right? What do you mean you cannot worship God? He's saying you cannot worship God if you're going to walk back in these ways, because the Lord disciplines those he loves. He can't bless you if you're going to claim his name, claim to walk in his ways, receive his blessing on the land from him, and then turn aside to your own ways. It's going to be disastrous. And they listened for a while, but the next generation forgets, and this begins to happen. So let us all remember, right? And let us all examine. Are we walking in God's ways or our own? We'll see you guys tomorrow on Saturday.